Would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Hatch.
Aye.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Gordon.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Cruz.
Aye.
Mrs. Feinstein.
No.
Mr. Leahy.
No.
Mr. Durbin. Mr. Whitehouse.
No.
Mr. Chairman, the votes are 11 yeas, 9 nays.
As expected, the Senate Judiciary Committee voted along party lines yesterday to approve the nomination of Judge Neil Gorsuch to be the next Supreme Court Justice. His nomination now heads to the full Senate, where he must get 60 votes in order to be confirmed. But with only 52 Republicans in the Senate, Gorsuch will need the additional support of 8 Democrats, an unlikely scenario as Democrats are planning to block the vote. Republicans, though, still have the upper hand.
What I can tell you is that Neil Gorsuch will be confirmed this week. How that happens really depends on our Democratic friends.
With Democrats threatening a filibuster, Senator McConnell is considering an option that would be unprecedented for a Supreme Court nominee. He could deploy the so-called nuclear option by changing the Senate rules to override Democrats and confirm Gorsuch with a simple majority of 51 votes.
When a nominee doesn't get 60 votes, you shouldn't change the rules. You should change the nominee.
The partisan fervor over Judge Gorsuch is partly due to the way Republicans treated Judge Merrick Garland last year when President Obama nominated him to replace Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. Republicans would not even consider Garland, citing the fact that it was an election year. Joining us to discuss all of this is Michelle Juando, the Vice President for Legal Progress at the Center for American Progress. Joining us in studio today on our panel, Greg Carr, the Chair of the Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University, Brandon Cooper, the Chairman of the Prince George's County Republican Party, and last but not least, the lovely Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, leadership strategist and author of How Exceptional Black Women Lead. So,
it's go time, right?
Listen,
yeah.
We all can see the hypocrisy. Blind people can see it, babies can see it, third graders can see it. Michelle, what is it about the Republican Party right now that seems to say, if it's not working by the rules, let's just change them or break them?
I mean, I so appreciate you starting with the fact that they are essentially trying to change the game in the third quarter. Since the Eisenhower administration, every single Supreme Court nominee has received and crossed the 60-vote threshold, with the exception of Clarence Thomas, and we're going to put that in a separate category altogether, right? But everything else, every other nominee, the last 4 Supreme Court nominees, Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Alito, Justice Sotomayor, Justice Elena Kagan. And so when you look at where we are today, what Republicans are saying is, so we're not going to give you a consensus nominee. We're not going to give you someone who can get bipartisan support as we have in the past. And because there are substantive disagreements that Democrats have with this nominee, well, we're just going to change the rules. And that is what Mitch McConnell is attempting to do.
And isn't the terrible part, putting the Merrick Garland situation aside, which I do think is important because of the hypocrisy and the way that they're trying to switch the rules, but the fact of the matter is, this just isn't a nominee that the Dems would have supported. They've got to get their 60, and this is not the nominee to do it with.
You know, I think it's important that people remember the backdrop. 293 days. President Obama announced the nomination of Judge Merrick Garland, and many progressives, especially black women, were concerned because there were other people that the president could have put forth. But you know what? He was a consensus pick. There were Republicans and moderates who said they would support him. But 293 days, they did not even give this man a hearing in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Judge Neil Gorsuch has received a lot more, and there are substantive reasons, whether it's his record on campaign finance, whether it's record about reproductive health and rights, or whether it's his issue about children with disabilities and access on education issues. I mean, there are so many different places that you can go with his record, not to mention the backdrop of there's an investigation from the FBI. The first day of his hearing, Comey was testifying on the other other side of the House. This is not necessarily the best time to be putting forth a Supreme Court justice, but yet Mitch McConnell is attempting to ram it through, and Democrats are rightly saying, I don't think so.
Good point. Many are saying, Dr. Carr, while we've got a president under an FBI investigation, should we really put any faith and confidence in his nominee? But again, putting that aside, did you get a chance to look at the nomination hearings? Wasn't that kind of like, let me entertain you on the part of the nominee?
I mean, let's be very clear. There is no consensus in this country. I mean, you know, Mitch McConnell, a second-rate legislator at best, is playing the hand that's been dealt by 200-some years of American racism. The only way he could get away with this is because a black man nominated a consensus candidate. Neil Gorsuch is a joke. He's taken a page from the John Roberts playbook, vague, evasive answers. I thought Al Franken was the only one that laid a glove on him when he basically exposed his absurdities. He's a smug, smarmy clown, and he will be confirmed because Mitch McConnell understands that there are no rules when you're talking about naked power grabs. He's going to blow it up. They're going to do it. Now, the real fight will come, which is why Ruth Bader Ginsburg hits the gym every morning. And they put this guy on. Really, I think they're putting Gorsuch on finally to really try to talk, I think, Anthony Kennedy into retiring. And if they get Anthony Kennedy, that's going to be the issue.
Right, but those liberals on the court could have retired while there was an opportunity for the prior president to nominate them.
But maybe they would have stalled another 2 nominees.
Hey, maybe so, because there aren't any rules.
That's right.
But Dr. Avis, Michelle raises a point that I happen to agree with, and I'm going to challenge the Black Women's Roundtable person on it this morning. Listen, did we do this because the sisters and the organizations were mad about Merrick Garland, and we all know that the full faith and support of women of color and organizations of color did not go behind our president and that nominee. Is that why we're stuck?
No, we're stuck because the president did not pick the best person for his nominee, which I believe would have been a black woman. There were plenty of...
Oh, you think a black woman would have passed, Davis? You think a black woman would have gotten a vote like Merrick so Merrick Garland couldn't get a meeting.
Let me tell you what the difference is. Let me tell you what the difference is.
If he nominated me, I would have gotten a vote.
Let me tell you what the difference is. Let me tell you what the difference is. When we had the Attorney General come before Congress and they tried to stall her, what happened? The halls were filled with black women until they heard her. So they could have done the same thing that they did to Merrick to a black woman, but you know what? People would have been energized in this election to the degree that they were not. We know good and well that nobody was really energized behind the Democratic candidate. But if they knew that a black woman was being stalled by those Republicans, that would have pissed people off. And anger is a motivator. Nobody gave a damn about, let me just finish, nobody gave a damn about Merrick Garland. Really? I didn't. Yeah. And so there was no motivation there. Right. And so, you know, the Republicans are really good at keeping their eyes on the prize. They know how important the Supreme Court is. Right. And during the entire campaign, I was like, I don't care who you like, who you don't like. Think the Supreme Court. Think decades ahead.
And the last time we had,
exactly. The last time we had a Democratic majority in the Supreme Court, I was 2 years old.
Come on.
Okay? So this is ridiculous. We weren't thinking the long game.
But that's
this
why
idea
I feel
about trying to have a consensus candidate actually ended up shooting us in the foot.
But we should have been thinking about the long game when we had a nominee, though. It should have been, I don't care who you like, who you don't like. Right. We have a nominee because now we've got our friend. We've got our friend down here. Yeah, because the black man who gets to appoint the nominee isn't enough motivation for the people of color. We need more motivation. Come on, what's going on with your Republicans? They playing by their own rules.
Yeah. Let me finish. So first off, I do agree, one, that treatment of Garland last year was wrong. Should have been at least given a hearing. If they voted no, they should have voted no. Should have got given a hearing. Also agree that a black woman would be great on the Supreme Court, the first one we ever had. But I disagree when you say that he's unqualified. Give me 30 seconds to go through it. He's had 2,700 cases. 97% of them have been unanimous decisions. 99% of them have been he's been in the majority. None of them. Let me finish. The 10th Circuit. It's not. Can I get the word through? My brother, can I get through? I didn't finish yet. So 2,700 cases. None of them have been overturned by the Supreme Court. Not a single one. And in 2006, the majority of these Senate Democrats voted unanimously to confirm him to the position. What has changed in 10 years? I think this is what people hate about politics. Again, it started with last year with Garland, and they're continuing now. I don't think it's right, with on either side doing it. But also talking about Senate rules changing. Again, don't revise history. The Senate rules being changed was a precedent started under Reid in 2013.
And why-
He changed. Let me finish.
And why is that?
Because again, Republicans had blocked some of Barack Obama's DC circuit.
Close
no.
to 500.
Let me go again.
Close to 500.
I'm agreeing with you. Politics is bad on both sides. What I'm saying is call a spade a spade. I hate when you try to whitewash history and make it seem like Democrats are saviors and Republicans are evil. This started when Democrats changed the rule in 2013 because Republicans were doing bad things. Now that things are flipped, Democrats are now being the bad things. Republicans changing the rules.
Any whiter than it already is.
The rules are changed.
Michelle, we got our people in power over here. You know, you're just a symbol. You're all we have for this morning. Who are saying we are the ones who are changing the rules. Here's my question. If you can't nominate a Supreme Court nominee in the election year, I keep hearing Senator McConnell say things like the people deserve to have the opportunity to speak about who the nominee would be. Isn't that what an election is? Do you just now have a president in power for 7 out of the 8 years?
And I would actually say Barack Obama realistically only had about 6 years, because we saw the same thing in 2011. He couldn't do anything. And then in 2013, you're saying, or 2015, 2016, he couldn't do anything because we were too close to the election. The fact is that there were close to 500 filibusters between 2009 and 2013 when Harry Reid went through 2 gentlemen's agreements with Mitch McConnell to move forward on lower court nominations, to move forward on presidential appointments. People have to remember the first thing that Mitch McConnell did after Barack Obama was elected said, we have to do what we can to make him a one-term president.
Right.
So that is the culture in which we've been operating. And Senate Democrats are finally saying, this is not our person. You can change the nominee. No one's forcing you to change the rules. Give us something. If you're supposed to be a deal maker, if this is the show me the money deal maker president, change the nominee. Come to the table. It's happened before. It can happen again.
Well, of course, they're not going to do that. But Dr. Carr, here's the point. Exactly as Michelle is saying, when the Democrats are in power, we play by rules, it seems. When the Republicans are in power, they get their agenda pushed through or they refuse any other agenda. Are we wrong?
No, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding. We're still speaking the language of Democrat and Republican when we're really talking about the way we look at the state. Mitch McConnell is really trying to deal with a philosophy. This is a governing philosophy. There are no moderate Republicans left in the United States Senate. You see now they're trying to revive this Affordable Care Act business, the so-called Freedom Caucus. This isn't DNR. Remember, this is an attempt to move this country in a different direction, more consistent with the pre-civil rights era. I mean, this really started with Robert Bork, if you remember this whole. And when Donald Trump goes to the Federalist Society, instead of and you're right, I think Barack Obama did. You're right, Doc. If he had put another black woman, because I count Sonia Sotomayor, she speaks Spanish, but let's be clear, she's an African, she's from New York, or people Puerto Rican. But when you talk about a black American woman, Barack Obama would have energized the base, because in this country we still see everything through the lens of race. And if Obama had balled his fist up and fought the way that Mitch McConnell, who is a Klan sympathizer as soon as we're sitting here, had fought, we wouldn't be having this conversation, I think.
Right, because ultimately the job always comes back on, you know, it's not my turn, I'm the host today, I can't disagree. All right, what are we going to do about it? What should people be doing now? We just got about 30 seconds. Tell us.
Really quickly, we're anticipating the vote on Thursday and Friday. Call your senators. Let them know. Don't change the rules, change the nominee. There's an ability to still bring a deal to the table, but if you're going to blow up the Senate, recognize it's on you. It's not on the Senate Democrats.
Right, solutions? Avis?
Yeah, I agree with that. And the bottom line is, long term, who knows? Even if they do change the rule, this presidency is going down in flames. I would be shocked if he lasts a year. It may come back to haunt them in the future.
I'll just say they shouldn't have changed the rules 2013. They shouldn't have changed the rules now. So I'm against it both ways. I agree. It's all about politics. I think
you're going to get smiling Mike Pence.
Our historian of the hour, the lovely GOP representative.
Peaceful protest turned deadly. 37-year-old black man was shot and killed by Baton Rouge police. His hands are in the air, and you still get shot by the cops.
Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
We're not gonna let hate define us.
Race is a big part of this.
If truly all lives matter, then all lives need to matter equally.
What we require is action. What we require is accountability. We understand that black lives do matter, and we will keep focused on this issue.
NewsOne Now, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.